Hey, this is Codefinity, and in this video, we're going to take a look at some intermediate or maybe advanced examples of working with some common array methods such as map, filter, and reduce. Now, if you've never heard of these lessons, this video may not be a great fit for you, but you can check the link in the description and read over how they work in a really simple situation, and then this video will make more sense. Otherwise, let's get started right now. For each of these examples, you've got 4 of them. We're always going to be dealing with an array of object literals, which is a very common data structure. So this one here is meant to simulate like a cart. Now, for each of these videos, you may want to pause the video and read through what we're actually going to be doing. I'll talk through it, of course, but it may be better if you pause the video, read through this, maybe even make an attempt on your own to think about what's about to happen. So this is written as like a ticket, like if say you were in a workplace and you were assigned a task. So this is what you have to do to complete your work ticket. And then I've written out some pseudocode. Pseudocode, if you're not familiar, is where we just kind of think through the process in plain English as much as possible before we get into writing real code. So I'm sure the AI will kick in and auto-complete some things, but we'll work iteratively here and see how it goes. All right, so first thing is we want the total cost of the entire cart. So that means we're going to start at the first item in the cart, and we're just going to need to take the price and the quantity. So that's going to be 98. Then we need to take that 98 and then add 25 and then add 299. For this situation, we are taking an array of items and we're going to reduce that down to a single total value. Now the pseudocode kind of says the same thing that I just did. The ACC, that means the accumulator. That's a term we use with reduce. That's a general term, just means the thing that's keeping track of the running total. All right, so I'm going to hit Command / here on Mac so I can clearly see the data up here. And now I will go const total. All right, so the autocomplete or the AI is doing this thing here. Okay, I'm actually going to accept that, but I'm going to change up the names. We don't need to say ACC, like it's not very descriptive. So I'm going to say, actually I'm going to change this name. Cart total. And then I'm going to highlight here and hit F2, and I'm going to change this into total. That's a great suggestion from the AI. So just because it's called an accumulator, we can give it a more meaningful name, such as running total. So now, well, it's getting a little aggressive here. I'll hit escape. So now let's take a look at how this is working. We've got cart, and we call the reduce method on it. So here in the reduce method, we're passing in 2 arguments. The first is a callback function, and the second is the initializer. So I'll put a comment here. Yes is the initial value for the accumulator. In this case, that means running total starts at 0. All right, so the way this works is we take this 0, that comes in here for the running total, so we're at 0, and then item is of course going to be the first item in the cart. So now we have this running total 0 plus, and the rest is history. 49 times 2, so we're going to be returning out a running total of 98, so on and so forth. Now, of course, this is written as a clean single line arrow function. If you wanted to, you could be a little bit more explicit here like that. If you like how that reads with the braces and all that. I don't, so I'm going to hit Command Z and go back to the single line version of the arrow function. As a quick reminder, if you're writing an arrow function and it only has one statement in it, then you don't have to put all that return and stuff. It'll execute the statement and automatically return that. So that's it. Starts at 0 and reduce just goes through each item, keeps updating the running total, and that is all. one, we're going to use filter. So reduce is the trickiest of the methods that we're going to be working with. So if you've got this far already, then the rest should be a little bit easier actually. So filter where quantity is greater than 1, so we're going to have something like this. And now it's going ahead. We can do the map. It's trying to do like chain the other part, but we don't need all that right now. Let's take it one step at a time. All right, so here with the filter, my goodness, this AI is just impatient. Okay, with the filter, I'm going to take a look at the item, and this is using a callback function, but the thing about filter is that it's always going to return a Boolean, like a true or false situation. So this is like it's called a predicate function. You could think of it as just like a test, meaning that we go into the item and then we're doing, true or false. Item.quantity more than 1. Well, for this first item, that is of course true, and it's going to be false and false. So filter will create an array of the items that pass the test, so we'll see this thing in here, okay? That's really about it. Let me go ahead and console log that one. Yeah, you can do it yourself, so just to keep the video going, but yeah, the AI is correct. You're going to end up with an array of only the one item, in this case, the one item that passes the test. Now, if there were, if this one had multiple quantities, you would have 2 items, for instance. So that's it. That is the filter one. Now we want to create a set of list items. So like this would be a situation where we're taking our data, transforming it, or mapping over it to turn it into, in this case, list items. And then that, of course, could go into, an actual web page or a web application in a browser. We're just, working here in the Node environment, but we can still generate the text with the list item in there. Okay, why it keeps wanting to attach map to this? We're not quite doing that yet. Instead, I'm just going to say const list. List items, that's fine. Okay, so this is going to be a map. Yeah, okay, so let's take a look at what's happening here. What we're doing is a map. So whenever we do a map, we are going to go, again, iterate over each item, and for every one of these items is going to map to a new value. So what that means is when we get to the first item, we're going to take this item and map it to whatever we want. In this case, that would be list item, keyboard x2, whatever, just a string. And then we map this one in the same way, we map this one in the same way. So the structure that we see here is we go into the cart, we pull the first item, and then we simply spit it out as a string. Now with the join here, the reason we need that is because it'll take the array, because map will create an array, it'll take that array and it'll get rid of the brackets and turn it into an actual string. Like if you were trying to render this in an actual web page and you didn't have the join on there, then you would see those weird array brackets that would be kind of mixed up in your HTML. So that's what join is. It joins the items in the array into a string. And in this case, we don't need any, here, I'll do something on here. Let me just put a weird word in here like hi, and then let's console.log list items. And that's actually not the correct output. The AI doesn't realize that I put the word hi in there. So let me just go ahead and run this. So I'll say bun run cart.js. So in this case, there's the word hi in between every one of our list items. So that tells us that whatever you put in here, it's saying take these list items and connect them together with whatever I put in here. Like you could do a \n, and then that will, break it up into these new lines, because \n is for a new line. So either way, \n, or you can just have an empty string, or you can keep hi in there, right? So, so I like the \n. I'm going to leave that so you can clearly see with the line breaks. Oh yeah, that's a good comment. Join with new line for readability. Very good. All right, moving on. Let's see, map. Oh, that's it. Let's see, map to list item with name, quantity, then join. We did that. Oh, and then, yeah, the purpose of this last one, it's going to be, no matter what we do with these array methods, I'll clear the screen and just hit up arrow. What we'll end up seeing is that nothing whatsoever happened to the original data. So that's one of the features of these array methods, these declarative array methods, is that they all work without any sort of mutation to the original data, which is, has a lot of benefits. We won't get into that here, but you can sort of think of it as like, okay, I can have a clean timeline of my data, and if I need to, use this cart somewhere else, I can rely on the fact that it is the original data that I intended, and nothing is just changing here without me noticing. So in each one of these, reduce, filter, and map, it never affects the original data in any way. Instead, reduce just creates the single total. The filter creates the array, in this case like this. But yeah, it's not like it's going to go in here and destroy or get rid of anything in the original data. That's the point, because these declarative array methods do not mutate. All right, so there's that. So now that you've seen that example, maybe some of these other ones you can get a little bit further as you explore them. Let's look at the food example. So here we have just a list of food. And so pause the video, read over the ticket, kind of think about the pseudocode that I've written here, make an attempt, and then let's go. So this one is kind of the same thing as doing a total, but it's a little bit more complex. It's not just a single number, right? So let's check that out here. So let's do like const food counts. Okay. And I'll go ahead and accept all this so I don't have to, yeah, I'm definitely going to clean this up. But, and that is technically correct, but yeah, I don't like all that. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do is switch this name to, let's see. I'm just going to running count. All right, this is the individual, that's fine. The next thing I'm going to do is whenever I write if statements, I don't like all these extra braces. If it's just a single statement inside the if block, you don't need those statements. But on top of that, I'm not really sure that, I mean, this is pretty clean and readable, but let's actually read the code as it is right now before we make it any different. So again, same concept. We have our running item. Notice how we're initializing it. We are initializing it as an empty object. And what's going to happen is we're going to keep updating that object and returning it as we build up the totals here. Okay, so it starts off as an empty object. Then we have our first item. So in this case, that is pizza. So we come in here and we say if the running count, which again, for the first, it's an empty object. Notice that we're using bracket notation. Why are we using bracket notation? Because item doesn't mean like the word item. Item is a dynamic variable. It's pizza, then item becomes burger, then pizza again, then fry. So it's a dynamic value, which means that we need to use brackets so that JavaScript says, oh, okay, you want me to go into the running count object and you want me to look for whatever item currently is. In other words, you want me to look in the first run, you want me to look for running count pizza. So what's going to happen when we do that sort of lookup? What's going to happen when we do that sort of lookup? Well, kind of visualize that by, I'm just going to call this aside here. Okay, and if I say console.log aside bracket pizza, it's going to say undefined. It's going to say undefined because this is a completely empty object and there is no key inside of here called pizza. Okay, so what does that mean? That means on this first run right here, this is going to come back as undefined. But since we're working with an if statement, it's going to translate undefined into false, because an if statement always coerces the data into either true or false. So that's what's happening here. So if we already have the item, pizza, then what we're going to do is update the count by 1. Otherwise, which is of course an empty object, so otherwise, we're going to actually create that object and set the count equal to 1. So this one is a little bit complicated, so let me go ahead and just put a log in here and we can actually kind of watch how it runs and builds up. Let's clear the screen. Okay, so here, see what happened? We come into pizza, and it's an empty object, so what happened is right here. We ran in here, and we said, oh, okay, there is no pizza. This is false, so if it's false, what are we supposed to do? Oh, okay, you want me to go in there and assign the number 1, or initialize it with 1, and basically create that item, which is pizza. That's exactly what happened here. Okay, and then so we do that, we return it. Now on the second run, we have our object is what? It's pizza. We have a count of 1. So then we come a burger. Same thing, we look for the burger item. It's not there, so we jump down to the else and we set that equal to 1. And we see that right here. And so on and so forth. The next time we run into pizza, we get to this if statement, and this is actually true now because it exists, it's in there. So now we're going to access the count for pizza, which is 1, and we're going to add 1 to it. Therefore, we end up with 2. So you can see here how the reduce builds it up 1 item at a time until we get to the final count. All right, so I guess that's everything. Now, I was going to do some refactoring in here, but maybe we'll save that for another video. Because, yeah, I always like to get a little bit cleaner and fancier. We can actually make this into a one-line, sweet one-line arrow function. But, you know, maybe that's overkill for what we have here. Because this is quite readable, and if you were to leave it like this, except for the console log, that would be pretty good. Okay, moving on. Let's move on to products, actually. So this is, I guess, kind of similar to the cart idea, except this is more like our current inventory. Okay, so again, you can read through the ticket or read through the pseudocode, and let's go. Okay, so we'll say const in stock. Yeah, that's it. I don't even know how much I need to say about this because it is going to be kind of similar to what we've seen now, right? We just go through here, and if it's product.instock is true, we want it into our new filter, otherwise we don't. So if we were to log in stock products, clear the screen, run that, we're going to only see everything in here has an in stock of true. The rest of it was left behind. All right, so that's the first part. Now we're going to do a sort. So this is a little bit different. We're going to do a sort by price ascending. So let's actually have a better name here. Not just sucks. We'll say sorted ascending. There we go. Okay. So sort is, a little bit tricky, but not really. Let's just take a step back and think about this. Forget about a computer for a minute. What if you just had this on a handwritten list? How would you go around sorting it by price? Well, you would have to go through and compare 2 items at a time. You take the first item and you take the second item. And you'd say, oh, okay, keyboard is cheaper than monitor. Okay, I'm going to keep keyboard here. I'm going to keep monitor here. Then you're going to get to price, and you're going to say, oh, that's 25. Okay, well, hold on. I'm looking at the next 2 items. So price is actually cheaper, so I got to move that up. So if you were manually sorting this on a piece of paper, it's kind of similar to what you would do here. In this case, you're comparing 2 items at a time, and then you're just subtracting the price. And if it's, I always forget how it works, to TBH, I just run it like this, and if it gives me ascending, then I know that's correct. And if it's the other way around, I switch the A and the B. But just know that A and B is just a representation of the items that we're looking at. So let's just go ahead and log this to make sure that the order is correct. And yeah, wait a minute. 20. Let me get rid of this. There we go. 20. Oh, you know what? We're missing some items. Oh, I didn't even notice what the AI did. It's only sorting our in-stock products. I don't want that. I want all of the products sorted. There we go. That's why I was like, it seemed like the list was too short. There we go. Mouse up to monitor, and it sorts it out like that. Now, if you were to switch this around, B minus A, then it would actually be descending. So that's what I meant by, I always forget which. See, this is going to be descending. So yeah, it's just about whether this returns a 0, a negative value, or a positive value is how it ends up doing the sort. So like I said, I always forget how that exactly works, so I just switch it around if I need to. Okay, map each product. Well, I mean, it's the same thing. You should probably be able to pause the video and do this one yourself. But let's go ahead and write it out here. I mean, I don't have anything to say about that. Yeah, you can just throw your join with the new line. So yeah, almost exactly like before. And that's it. We can console that. And then we will run that. Now, the idea here was to show chaining. So what we're going to do is just chain all of this together. So check this out. We're going to say, let's see, product, in stock, source list items. Do you see where this is going? What's really cool is that we can just chain all this stuff together. There you go. So it's good to see it separated out, but you can mix and match and chain these however you want to. So with one variable, really just one statement that's just kind of joined. It's the same thing we just wrote, but we do it all at once. And then we end up with what that variable name exactly tells us. So we have our products sorted only in stock and as list items. Pretty nice. All right, and here, generate a report card for passing students. Okay, and then so again, pause the video, kind of check this out. I'm going to take out this extra challenge just because I think we've done enough. So yeah. Well, yeah, that's helpful. It'll kind of, yeah. So basically, we're going to have if they're passing. So first, we're going to filter out. We just want the people that are passing. So that's going to be Alice, Carol, and Dave. And then we want to sort them. Highest is Carol, in that order, and then put them as a list item. So that's kind of the plan here. We've kind of already seen this. So let's see. Well, yeah, I had the idea is passing function and stuff. I don't even know if that's really we can, but let's just chain it together for right now. It's really not that special to write that function, so I might just alter the deal further. All right, so let's come up with a variable name here. Let's do passing sorted. It's gonna do it. Yeah, I mean, there's really. Oh, I see. It's actually have it. I mean, yeah, that's fine. Since the AI wrote it out, I'll accept it. But I mean, so it's just showing you that, okay, look, you can put these in different functions and pop them in there. But I don't know. I guess that was kind of the idea here. So you've seen that, but there's really not any major value. So you could leave it like that, or you could just, you can just take this function line. I actually think this is a lot of clutter here. So we're doing kind of what I decided initially. but we don't need this. Now, where that would be helpful is if you have like nets or something like that, and you're going to be using the function over and over again. But even then, it's literally just one function, so who cares? I'm going to do something a little bit different here. I'm not actually sure what it's complaining about there, but I'm gonna do something just to remix this a little bit. Okay, so here, again, I don't really need. Oh, it's because I didn't have the parameter in there. That's all. Okay, but there are things that I might change on here just to remix it a little bit. Okay, so now say that, get rid of this function. Oh, and I guess that's it. So that's pretty cool right there. I'm going to show one. Let's just make sure it works. We'll run students. There we go. All right, so that's all fine. I'll flash n in here to make it a little bit easier to read. The only thing I'll show you here is object destruct, which means if I don't need to sit here and do student, then student.grade. If I already know the key that I want, I could just destructure it directly from the object. So I could just do that. There we go, like that. So you can use object destructuring if you like, where you're saying, hey, I know I'm going to be receiving an object, like the student object, and all I want from that is grade. So just you put these, so it kind of looks like an object, but when you've written it as a function parameter, this is known as destructuring. So you're destructuring the piece that you need, and it just saves you maybe a little bit of clutter. I mean, yeah, you have the braces, but then you don't have student dot, and then student. See, so it is a little bit shorter, especially if you're working with multiple keys. Like if we were doing more information, you'd have student dot this, student dot that, over and over again. So instead, you can use destructuring. All right, I think that is enough. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful. Feel free to drop any questions or comments or whatever.